Hello everybody, welcome to my tutorial on how to put Mecabricks figures into Unreal Engine 5. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Mecabricks, and I'm going to get a figure. Now for this one I'm going to use where is it? For this one I'm going to use this Spider-Man figure here. You can use any figure you want really, but I'm going to use this one. So for this tutorial I'm going to be using Mixamo to break the figure. So for what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to position the arms in an A pose. Go like this, go like this, go like this, and go like this. Wait, that's not right. Okay, that's right. Okay, so I'm using an A pose just because this is usually the default pose when we start rigging and things like that. So I'm going to export this as a Blender add-on, and I'm going to put this in my tutorial folder. Obviously you put this wherever you want to put it, but this is where I put it. So I'm going to call this Spider-Man. I'm going to put in brackets Blender, just so I know this is the add-on that's going into Blender directly. So now I've done that, I'm going to open up Blender, and I'm going to import that figure that I just exported. Okay, that's that done. So now I'm going to make the hands single users just so the materials are separated. So I'm going to go select the hands, go to Object, Relations, Make Single User, Object and Data and Materials. Now, with the hands, you can see right here that they are two separate materials. This will be good in case I want to change the hands later. Okay, so next I'm going to join the parts together. This is just for Mixamo because if I don't do this, the rigging on Mixamo will mess up and it will look horrible. So I'm going to join them together by selecting all the parts over here and pressing Control J. So now they're all one part. Now that I've done that, I'm going to select this, and then I'm going to export as FBX. And I'm going to select Mesh as the... Actually, I'm going to select selected objects as the limits for the export. So now I'm going to put that in here. Now I'm going to put Spider-Man. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to go into Mixamo now, so we can break this. Mixamo is a software run by Adobe. So you can see there's one I've already done earlier, and we're just going to do another one now. So I'm going to press Upload Character, select Character File, and I'm going to select Spider-Man. That's the FBX I just made. Okay, so now we have our Spider-Man here. So I'm going to press Next, and you can see these circles. So these are all the parts of the body that I need to put these on. So this one's for the chin, so I'm going to put this around here. You don't have to put it exactly there, but somewhere around there. Wrists I'm going to put here. Elbows about here. Knees about here should do. And then the groin is obviously in the groin. And there's another thing we need to check. So down here, skeleton LED. Want to expand that and press no fingers. Obviously because Lego figures don't have fingers. Okay, there we go. Just nearly done. Okay, so there we go. You can see you've got an animation. It's not perfect. You can see some of the bodies kind of peeling away. But it works. Okay, so I'm gonna press next and press next again. So right now you can see he's in his default pose. You might actually end up having if you've played around or something, you might end up finding that he's got an animation on by default. If this happens, just press the X around here, and you'll bring it back to his default pose. Now I'm going to download this one, and I'm going to leave his pose as his original pose. I'm going to download this one. And I'm going to call this one player, because this is what we're going to put into Unreal Engine. Okay, so now that's that out of the way, I'm going to get some animation for him. The ones I'm going to get is the idle, walk, run, and jump animations. So let's get them. So I'm just going to have a look around, see which ones that I want. I think I've used this one before. It's a bit too happy, isn't it? Let's use this one. I've used this one before. Okay, so on the right we have some options. So overdrive is kind of the amount of effort they put into the animation. So right now it's at 50, but if I crank this up to 100, you can see he's got a lot more sway into him. For now I'm just going to leave that at 50. Character orange space is how much the distance between the body and not there is. So if I crank this up, you'll see his arms are really far apart. If I drag this down, right down here, you'll see that they are in between. So for me, I usually go around 75. It depends on the animation that I'm using, what I go for, but this will do for now, I think. So I'm going to download this, and I'm going to press on here without skin. This is because we've already got a skin from the default pose that we just downloaded. You can leave it as 30 FPS if you want, or you can increase it to 60 or reduce it to 20 to 24. I'm going to call this one idle, and that's that done. Now I'm going to get a walking animation. And let's just use this one. It should be fine. Yep. So speed, I'm going to leave that as is, I think. Might increase it a little bit. A little bit more. Stride, I think I'm just going to leave that as it is. Overdrive, yeah, it's fine for me. I'm going to increase his arm space again, just so his arms are a little bit further apart. And again, just to get it right, really. And when you do walking animations or running animations, anything that goes off screen, you will see he goes off screen. But I don't really want this at the minute, so I'm just going to press in place, so that he'll keep running in place. He'll keep walking in place, basically. So I'm going to download this one again, and again without skin. So I'm just going to skip ahead until I've downloaded all of these. I have all my animations now. So what I'm going to do now is going to go into Unreal. Okay, so for this I'm going to choose the third person template by default. I'm going to put it in wherever you want to put it. I'm just going to leave it as it is because that's in the tutorial folder, which I want. I'm just going to call this my project. That's fine as it is. And create project. Okay, so now that we're inside of Unreal, and this is Unreal 5 by the way. I haven't tested this on Unreal Engine 4, but you can if you want. I don't have any guarantee it will work, but why not give it a shot? Okay, so by default yours will look like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the content browser by pressing Ctrl and space. And I want to keep this on here, so I'm going to press Dock in Layout. And that'll just keep it there for me. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to import our Spider-Man. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to press new folder. It's going to make a new folder just to keep this organized. And in here I'm going to press import. Actually, first what I'm going to do, I'm going to import it into here first. And before I do that, I'm going to make another new folder called materials. Okay, now I'm going to import it. Okay, so I'm going to go to tutorial, and I want to grab this player one, which is what I named earlier. And this is the player one, so I'm going to do this first. Make sure you do this first, otherwise it won't work properly. Just leave everything as it is. You can ignore this error, it's fine. Now you see it'll come in, and it'll make some animations for us. It'll make some materials for us, sorry. So you've got 3 skeletons here. The first one is what the player sees on the screen. The second one is the this is what controls the animation, if that makes sense. And then this last one is the physics skeleton, which is what controls physics, so your ragdoll physics and things like that. I'm going to put all these inside my model folder by dragging them in press and move here. And I'm going to put the materials into the materials folder. And this will take a few minutes, just because it needs to recalculate all the file paths and whatnot. So whilst we're waiting for that, I'm going to go back into Mecabricks because we need the textures for this Spider-Man figure. So I'm going to file it. I'm going to export it again, but this time it's Collada. So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to call this one textures. I'm going to extract all this. You can see now I've got all my textures. So these are for the legs, and these are for the body and the face printing. So let's see if that's done. Still not done yet. There we go, that's done. Okay, so I'm going to import the textures that we just downloaded as well. Textures. They're the leg ones. Okay, so now we have our textures and our materials. So now what do we do? Well, first I'm going to sort out these materials. So if I go into our model, that's this one with the pink line, you'll see that if I go into asset details, you can see all these materials down here, and each one of these corresponds to a material, a body part in here. Now it's not very obvious what material goes with which part, but there is a way to find out. So what do we do for that? Well, I'm going to select the head for my first one. I'm going to right click. Now you can see that it says LOD 0 section 8. This 8 is referring to one of the materials down here. Now this is indexed, which means it starts with 0. So on here I'm going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now this one is the one that points to the head. I can edit this by double clicking it. And you can see this is the material that we get when we imported this, when we imported the FBX. Now on this I want to add the head pattern, head texture. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click and I'm going to type in texture sample. You see right there. I can also type it in here. This is our palette. You can see, I can see it there again. So this is basically just an image type basically. So I'm going to come down here and select our face texture. Just going to drag these two out a bit. Now I want to put these two into the base colour, but how do I do that? Because if I do this, you'll see that it's now just the face texture and not what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag another node out. I'm going to go over here this time, and I'm going to type in layup. I'm going to select this linear interpolate. Drag this out. And now for this one, the param. This is the parameter. This is the color parameter basically. I'm just going to call this color. So I'm going to drag the top one from here, this is the RGB. I'm going to drag this into the A value, and now on here I'm going to drag this RGB one into the B. I'm going to drag this one's alpha into the alpha in here, and now I'm going to put this into the base color. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go save, apply, and save. Now it'll take a few seconds. Now if we go back into the player, you'll see it's on there, sure, but it's messed up. What's going on? Well, we need to change this one little number, that's all. So if I click on this texture sample, in here you can see this constant coordinate. Now I found that changing this changes the value of the texture where it is on the body, kind of thing. So if I change this to 1 and click apply, you'll see that it's changed from earlier. I'm going to change this to 2 because I found that this works for the head. I'm going to click save, apply and save. And again, this will take a few seconds. So if I go into here now, you can see now it's on the body. Hooray! Okay, so what's next? Now, next is the body, sorry. So right click this again, this is section 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. This one is for the body. I'm going to do the same again. Texture sample. Where are you? There you are. I'm going to get another layup node again. That's it, again, linear interpolate. So I'm going to drag that into there, that into there, that into there, and I'm going to load this texture up. And again, this one's the body. Now, I know for a fact that the body, on here at least, is 1 in the constant coordinate. So I'm going to apply that, save it. And now you can see he's got his body texture on. Hooray again. Next up is the leg. So this is section 1. So this is 0, 1. Texture sample again. That into there. That into there. That into there. And now again for the texture sample. So legs. I believe I can't remember which way around the legs go, but I think it's that way first. We'll find out in a second. Let's just turn this around so we can see. If it'll let me. Okay, there we go. We can see it's on the leg now. Is that the right leg? I think it is. I'm sure someone's screaming at me if it's not. Okay, so next up we've got the other leg. You can see this is section 2. So back in here, 0, 1, 2. So that's this one. And I'm going to get a texture sample again. Linear interpolate again. I'm going to do the same thing again. And then select the first leg this time. Okay, so that should be our materials done, and it is. Okay, so I'm going to back out of here now, since that's our materials done. Okay, so something I'm going to do is I'm going to go into our character, because I want to replace the default. So if I place play now, you'll see that we've got the default third person template character. Looks like Iron Man from Wish. Right? I want to replace that character with my Spider-Man. So I'm going to go into the content folder, third person, blueprints, and I'm going to double click this third person character to open it. Then go into the viewport and press this. I'll be able to change my character over here where it says skeleton mesh. I'm going to player, and you'll see it's way too big, so we need to decrease it so it's decent size for us to play with. If I go into here, you can see it is way too big, isn't it? So let's fix this. So I'll just go into here, and where it says scale, I'm going to change that to 0.04 because I found that this works for me. I'm going to drag them up a little bit, just to make his colliders slightly more accurate. Compile and save that. I'm going to close that for now because I don't need it for now. Now I'm going to import our animations. I'm going to make another new folder in the content called animations. Now let's import them. So now I need to import idle, jumping, running and walking. Now on here, for skeleton you want to select our skeleton and press import all. Okay, so now we've got our animations in here. Slate Unreal autosave. It seems to do this a lot. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an animation blueprint. So I'm going to right click, go to animation, animation blueprint. I'm going to select our player. I'm going to call this one player anims. Open this up. And you can see I've got this, like, what the hell is this? Don't worry, I'm gonna show you what that is. Okay, so let me got my notes here. Okay, so this is basically an animation graph. So what I can do here is I can pull out of here and I can type in state machine. So this will tell the animation. This will tell the engine what animations can play when. I'm going to call this one, let's just call this dates. Double click this to open it. Now we've got the entry node. This is basically what happens when the animation starts. So I'm going to drag off to here and I'm going to type in add state. I'm going to type in idle / walk / run because these three animations can all come off each other. So you go from idle to walk and run and walk to run. Okay, then I'm going to drag off here and add another new state, this one called jump. And I'm going to drag off some jump back in to the idle walk run because we can go from either of these to go into jump, or we can go from jump back into the idle run animations. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the jump state. Now I'm going to drag outside jumping animation. I'm going to put this in, going to connect this to each other. Just like that. Okay, next, I'm going to come back out here. To do that I just click this states button here. Then I'm going to click this thing here. Right? This is our result. Can't enter transition. So we're going to enter this if we are jumping. But we need to set that up first. So I'm going to go into the event graph, which is similar to the blueprints, to the character blueprint, just for animations. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to drag it out of here and get movement component. You can see it right here. This is going to be the movement component of our character, aka Spider-Man. Now I'm going to drag off here and type in is falling, which should be pretty self-explanatory, but it says if the character's falling, do this, if it's not, do that. I'm going to right click on here and press promote to variable, which will bring me this node. And it'll also give me, down here in the bottom left, a new variable, which I'm going to rename to is jumping. Because if he's jumping, then we're going to play this animation. Now we want the speed of the player. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag off here this time. I'm going to say get velocity. You can see it right there. Now this is a vector indicated by the yellow But we don't want this since we want the speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert this to a float. I'm going to do this by getting a vector length. And now you can see it's a float indicated by the green. So I'm going to right click on this and promote this to a variable as well, similar to what we did here. And again you can see we've got a new variable down here. I'm going to rename this one speed. Now I'm going to drag these in together, and I'm going to drag this one here. This one is when the animations, basically when the animation starts, when we get into this state. So that's all done. I'm going to compile and save that. Now I'm going to go back out of here into here. Right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get is jumping variable that we just made. I'm just going to say get is jumping. I'm going to put that into there. I'm going to go back out of here, and I'm going to go into, I believe it's this one. So for this one I'm going to do the same, but the only thing I'm going to do differently is I'm going to get a not boolean. So I'm going to drag that out there, get a not boolean, and drag that into there, just like that. Okay, that's that one done. So I'm going to come back out there. I'm going to go into here, but we're going to deal with this in a minute. So I'm going to drag this over to here. I'm going to go in here. Now I want to make a blend space. This will help us to blend together our idle, walk, and run animations. So I'm going to go out to animation, blend space 1D. You could, blend space is just for multiple directions, so forward, back, left, right, diagonal, and all that lovely stuff. But 1D is just for both forward and backward, which is what I need. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to select our skeleton again. I'm going to call this layer anims BS. This stands for blend space and not anything else. Okay, so this thing here is our blend space essentially. So you got 0 to 100. So this tells you what happens when a thing is at 100 and what happens when something is 0. I'm going to decrease this to 600 because that's going to be our player's default speed. Our maximum speed, sorry. So I'm going to change this, I'm going to call this speed. And I'm going to change the minimum I'm going to keep as 0, but the maximum I'm going to be naming to 600. Now, you can see down here in the bottom right corner, we have our animations. We've got idle, jumping, running, walking. Not only jumping, because we've already sorted that out. What I need is idle, walking, and running. So the idle, when the player's speed is at 0, we're going to be idle, right? Because we're not moving. So I'm going to drag this one out into. What I do? Okay, so I'm going to drag this one out into here, right? And now I've got this here. I want this at 0, so what I can do is I can drag it around, or I could drag it around down to here, or I can hold shift and it'll snap to each of these grid points here. If you want more grid points, you can increase the grid divisions up here, so I'll increase that to 5 for example. You can see now it's at 5, so now I can do in-betweens as well, but I'm just going to keep it as 4. Okay, so now I'm going to put this one at 0. So now if I play this, you can see all he's doing is his idle animation. I want his walking one as well. So his walking one I want to 300. So as I said, you can hold shift and you can move it around, or you can come up to here and press 300. That's if you wanted it in a specific spot, but as I can just press shift for this. I want his running animation as well. I'm going to put this at 600. So now if I press Control, you'll be able to see that I can preview what he's going to do at each point. So at 0, he's going to be he's going to be in his idle animation, right? But if I bring this over to 300, you can see he's walking now. If I bring this up to here, he's now running. Hooray! So I can save this now. Press and save. I'm going to come back into our animation blueprint. Now I'm going to drag this out into here. This is our blend space that we've just made. I'm going to connect this up to here. Now I'm going to bring out our speed variable. This is what we made earlier. And I'm going to put this. I'm going to drag this onto here. See, it highlights green. I can just do that. That's the same as doing this. Again, pressing get speed and putting that in here. It's the exact same thing. Okay, so that's that done. There's one more thing I need to do on the blend space, by the way, and that is the sample smoothing in the weight speed. So this is how smooth the transitions are, kind of how smooth they'll be between transitions. I'm going to set this as 10 because apparently between 5 and 15 works, so I'm going to do exactly between that, which is 10. So I'm just going to save that again. I believe that's all we need to do for that. It is indeed. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to go back into the third person map, which is the map as you can see, and I'm going to go into the character again. So I'm just going to call it. I'm going to search character. Not in character now. Okay. I'm going to go back into content then. Third person, blueprints, third person character. And now what I need to do is I need to do a couple of things just to get our speed working properly. So I'm going to press. So there's two ways you can do speed here. First one is to add an action mapping. I'll do the laser word first. So what I can do is I can press right click, can type shift. So you've got this keyboard event which is left shift, right? That's the lazy way to do it. But if you want an action mapping, which is a slightly better way to do it, go to edit, project settings. Now scroll down and you will see input. Now you can see you've got axes mapping and action mapping. Axes mappings is for, you know, your like forward, left, right, backwards, things like that. And your action mappings is just for single key presses, so you know your I for inventory or your M for map, stuff like that. So I'm going to add a new action mapping, and you can see it does this. I'm going to name this to sprint. Now I want to select the key that's going to be used with. So I'm going to use shift for this, but you can use whatever key you want really. So if I want to do this, I can go down here, I can press shift. I can see it there. Or I can press this keyboard button and press left shift on my keyboard. And it does it just like that. So now I'm going to go back into the blueprint, and I'm going to right click and type sprint. So there's my that's the action mapping that we just made. It is the same thing as doing that essentially, but it's just a slightly better way to do it, because it makes it so that if we change our minds and we want to use a different key later on, we can change that in the action mappings. We don't have to come into here and find where we put this. Okay, so now I'm going to get. So now what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to change the character's speed. So I'm going to press this character movement component. You might remember we used this earlier over in the event graph. That's this get movement component. So I'm going to drag off here and search for hang on a second. Find it. Okay, hang on. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the max walk speed. And you'll see it's not coming up. Why is that? Well, when we drag off here, Unreal thinks that we might want to use one of these, but obviously we don't. Right? So let's untick this context sensitive. This will show us all of the nodes that we can use. So we want to set the max walk speed, and for this one, whilst we're pressing shift, we're going to increase our speed to 600. I'm going to duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D. I'm going to set this to 300. This will be our speed when we are not pressing shift, or in other words, our walking speed. So again, in the character mover component, I'm going to search for walk speed, and right now it's set to 500, so I'm just going to change this to 300. So that's what I've got down here. Now I'm going to drag this thing, I'm going to drag this component out, and you'll see it comes up with this. So I'm just going to put this into here, and this one into here. So there's our character movement done. So what else do we need to do? Anything else? Well, yes we do. We need to set our character's animation blueprint. So you can see right now it's saying animation class none. So we want to use our one that we've just made, which is in player animations for me. So now you can see he's got his idle pose now. So if I compile and save this, this should hopefully work. So you can see he's got his idle animation. If I start walking, you can see he's starting to walk now. And if I hold shift, he starts to run. If I press jump, he starts to jump. And there we go, just like that, it works. You can see he's starting to fall off the ground a little bit. So to fix that, what I can do is I can come back into here. I'm going to drag him down a little bit. His position is at -99 now, right now. It's going to make this -100. That should hopefully fix that problem. Okay. Drag him. Let's make him 99. Okay. You can see I can get it perfect if I want to. But overall it's working. So you can see if I'm walking again, I can hold shift, start running. If I jump, I can jump. So that'll be it for this tutorial. I hope you found this useful. And if you did, if you have any questions, just hit me up on Discord. I'll leave my tag in the description. And yeah, that'll be it for this tutorial.